This is not a man. This is a strong, independent woman. And before you roll your eyes and think, oh great, another Netflix show getting promoted using gender equality and feminism to appeal to the woke audience. Relax, because Blue Eye Samurai is actually absolute cinema. If we are only counting anime produced by Netflix, I will say it right now, this might be the best one they've ever made. The show has an 8.7 on IMDb, a 97% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes, and somehow almost no one talks about it. Except Hideo Kojima, I guess. But compare the web searches for it with something like Arcane, for example, and the difference looks less like a competition and more like Blue Eye Samurai is a hidden gem masterpiece. And at the center of it is a female protagonist who is undeniably the best written female character I've ever seen. So if Blue Eye Samurai is actually a critically acclaimed hit, why does it feel invisible? What is it that makes this female character so unique? And also the most interesting question, what does Quentin Tarantino have to do with Blue Eye Samurai? Because the moment you press play, you notice it's familiar, but different. Because it hits the same heights as iconic revenge stories like Kill Bill. Suddenly the comparison becomes obvious, not in a cheap imitation way, more like a love letter to the Japanese revenge genre that Quentin Tarantino helped redefine. Because at the center of both stories are two absolute monsters with a sword. Mizu and the Bride. Both are on a path of revenge. Both stories are brutal, stylish, and have a lot of feats. And both play funky songs during fights. But the deeper you go into Blue Eye Samurai, the more you realize it's doing something very different with that formula. Because in Kill Bill, the bride is hunting the people who betrayed her. It's revenge, personal revenge. But Mizu's story is darker than that. She isn't just hunting enemies, she's hunting the man who made her exist. The story takes place in 17th century Edo, Japan, during a period when the country had almost completely closed its borders to the outside world. Foreigners were rare, suspicious, and sometimes illegal. So imagine being born in that world with blue eyes. From the moment she was born, Mizu was treated like something unnatural, a mistake. People call her a half-breed, a demon, something that shouldn't exist. And because of that, she spends her entire life hiding. She hides her identity, she hides her eyes behind tinted glasses, and she hides something else too. Her gender. Because revenge in Edo, Japan was not something women were allowed to pursue. So Mizu disguises herself as a man, not for a clever twist, but because it's the only way she's allowed to survive. And suddenly the revenge story becomes something much more interesting. Now she isn't just fighting enemies, she's fighting an entire world that refuses to acknowledge her. But the most disturbing part of her story is the reason behind her mission. Somewhere in Japan, there are 4 white men who were present in the country when she was born. One of them is her father, the man responsible for the assault that led to her existence. And when Mizu finds him, she's gonna drink some cha with him. She's gonna clap him, that's the mission. Which leads to a brutal realization. Mizu's revenge isn't just about vengeance, it's about erasing the source of her own shame. In her mind, if she kills the man who created her, maybe she can erase the reason she was hated in the first place. That's an insanely dark idea, for what many people assumed was just another animated action show. And yet the show fully commits to it, which is why Mizu feels so different from most female protagonists. Cause let's be honest, modern media loves talking about strong female characters. And sure, it's great to have women in more roles in cinema to inspire people. The problem isn't audiences hating women as female leads. Audiences hate poor writing. They can smell bullshit from a mile away. So stop patronizing and bullshitting the audience. Characters who are, look at me, I'm a girl but I kick butt and defy society, without ever struggling, failing or growing, those characters end up feeling like painting done with only one brush. Impressive at first glance, but ultimately one-dimensional. Mizu is the complete opposite. She's a woman, a badass, an orphan, the product of a forbidden mixed race union. A samurai, a swordsmith. She's bitter, angry, obsessive, sometimes cruel. She lies, manipulates, pushes away the few people who try to help her, and sometimes she's just plain wrong. The story doesn't protect her. She bleeds, loses fights, gets humiliated, and occasionally, the show forces her to confront something far worse than losing a duel. Herself. She's flawed, human, and complex. I think you know what I'm trying to say here. And this is where the comparison to Kill Bill becomes even more interesting. Because just like the bride, Mizu is a force of nature with a sword. But the tone of the two stories is very different. Kill Bill treats revenge like a stylized opera of violence. It's cinematic. Blue Eye Samurai, on the other hand, constantly reminds you that revenge is ugly. Just in the first episode, Mizu chops off the fingers of a man to get information. She leaves a disabled person tied to a tree in the middle of the wilderness. She leaves a woman and a daughter to freeze outside of the city walls. In mass murder killed 20 dojo students. Revenge is ugly. It isolates and consumes you. And if you chase it long enough, it slowly turns you into something less human. Into something closer to a ghost.
Into an Onryo!
In Japanese folklore, an Onryo is a vengeful spirit, a ghost created by rage and unfinished business, a soul that refuses to rest. And honestly, that description fits Mizu almost perfectly. She moves through the world with no home or identity, seeking only revenge, just like an Onryo. We are first introduced to the term Onryo in episode 5, the highest rated episode of the show. And honestly, one of the most masterfully told pieces of storytelling I've ever seen. This is the episode where Mizu's life is laid bare, where we witness the most horrific and heartbreaking moments of her past. There was a time when fear and hatred in her heart were replaced, briefly, by love.
I found you a husband.
Episode 5 takes us into a period where an arranged marriage unexpectedly blossoms into something tender and real. For the first time, Mizu learns to let go of rage, to trust someone, and to feel connection. She doesn't reject her new life as a wife. She frets over her cooking, works diligently to support the household, and slowly softens. She laughs, she smiles, she becomes fragile. She finally experiences a moment of femininity, softness, and acceptance. But that fragile happiness is shattered in an instant. Her husband and mother fight to the death right behind her, and in one cold, decisive moment, Mizu kills the survivor and walks away, never looking back. Everything she had allowed herself to feel is rejected and affirmed as monstrous the moment she revealed her true skills. Through these flashbacks, the audience finally understands just how broken Mizu is. So little of her soul is left intact that every action, every choice, every mask she wears is a result of trauma forged over years of betrayal and loss. She has rejected all parts of herself that don't serve her purpose, especially her femininity and her mixed heritage, because if anyone knew she was a woman born of a white father, she would lose the freedom necessary to pursue her revenge. And while all of this sounds heavy, the show balances it with something equally impressive: the animation. Because god lord, this show did not need to go this hard. The fight choreography is ridiculous. Every duel feels like a carefully crafted dance of blades. There's this moment where Mizu drops her training weights, and if you grew up watching anime, you immediately recognize the signal. That universal signal that screams, "I've been holding back, now someone is about to get clapped." And she doesn't just drop the weights, she slams them back onto her weapon, turning a simple fight into a breakdance competition. And the amount of care put into the details is... Like notice, she's always slightly bent, arcing her back. That's because she's binding her chest, and that can cause posture problems. Or see that little double skip she does before slide tackling the enemy? That's her getting her footing right for the tackle. It's subtle, but it's there. Every frame is packed with tiny, intentional touches like this that makes everything feels real. The art style. It's really beautiful. It's more like a moving painting than traditional animation. And the deeper you go into the story, the more you realize the real reason it works so well isn't just the action or the animation. It's also the characters. Because Mizu isn't alone on this journey. There's Rengo, an optimistic noodle maker who dreams of becoming great at something. There's Taigen, a proud samurai whose rivalry with Mizu slowly evolves into something...
Why are you gay?
Much more complicated. And then there's Akemi, a princess living in luxury who slowly realizes that luxury can also be a prison. Each of them represents a different way of surviving in this world. Obedience, ambition, or rebellion. And as their lives collide with Mizu's revenge quest, the story slowly becomes less about killing someone and more about identity. Another reason the world feels so convincing is the historical detail hidden everywhere. For example, you might notice characters with blackened teeth. At first it looks strange, but historically it was actually fashionable. The practice was called ohagoro, and it was often used to signal marriage or social status. People would paint their teeth using mixtures containing iron filling, sake, and plant extracts. Yeah, history is
Weird.
Which brings us to something I kept wondering about while watching this show. How is this not bigger? It's one of those shows where the people who discover it immediately recommend it to everyone else. But somehow it still hasn't exploded into mainstream popularity. And in my humble opinion, there are two big reasons for that. Number one, no built-in fan base. Blue Eye Samurai was a completely original story, so it had to build an audience from scratch, unlike other shows that are based either on video games or comics. Second, animation bias. Blue Eye Samurai sits in an awkward middle ground. It's not traditional anime, but it's also not a mainstream Western cartoon. Even the creators have emphasized that this isn't an anime. At the end of the day, maybe it never exploded online, but stories like this don't disappear. Because underneath the swords, revenge, and stunning animation is a character desperately trying to prove she deserves to exist. And that's a battle people understand no matter what century they live in. Thank you guys for watching. If you liked the video, make sure you like and subscribe, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Peace out.